Hi, this is Jeff from the Ozark Mountains. That's in Missouri, in the USA. Today we're going to take a look at repurposing an old document camera to do surface mount soldering work and inspection. Now this is kind of an unusual repurposing of a tool that's used to project documents for like classrooms and things like that. But this was suggested to me by somebody on Twitter, and I think it'll make a great addition to the shop. So we'll have a look, we'll build some surface mount boards, and we'll inspect some others, and we'll see how it works. Let's take a closer look. Here are just a few of the circuit boards I've had made recently by PCBWay, who is nice enough to sponsor this video. So whether you need a few boards or a lot of boards, check out PCBWay. Jump on over to the PCBWay website and get your instant quote on standard circuit boards, advanced, flex. They even do assembly, and you can get stencils made. For your next project, check out PCBWay. This is a Wolf Vision Visualizer VZ8 Plus. Now, there seems to be a few variations of this thing. This one has VGA and DVI, USB, and I think composite output. Right now I've got it hooked up through VGA. You've got this matte white platform to put your documents on. An on button. I think this controls the light. Yep, you can set the light in different amounts. And you've got the control panel here. I think this is for an infrared remote control, which I do not have. You can control the zooming through here. You can manually focus it here after turning off the autofocus. You can freeze a snapshot of the document or whatever you're working on. And this will pipe in an external source, which I haven't tried yet. I'm not sure why you'd want to do that, but you know, who knows? And this whole thing collapses. It collapses like so for easy storage. And it's not too heavy. I'm guessing, about 20 pounds or so, 15 to 20 pounds. And best of all, this was about $50 shipped from eBay. Let's take a look at the connections on the back side. And here we have our rear connections. I guess this is our external VGA in. We have a DVI output, VGA output, S-video output, composite output, USB. I noticed the video seems to be a little laggier, the frame rate not quite as good over USB, so I used the VGA so I could also capture it and display it. I think the RS-232 is for some form of external control. And our power input, this did not come with a power supply, but I grabbed a, let's see here, 12 volt 2 amp power supply out of my junk drawer, which with a center positive barrel jack like this, and that works great. And I don't remember off the top of my head what this smaller connector labeled LB here is for. You can find the manuals for this online as well as the driver. So you can use the USB video feed into your computer if you choose to do it that way. What do you say we set this thing back up and we see how it works for actual surface mount soldering? It's kind of interesting seeing the capture device there in the background. We're getting like double vision or something. It's kind of odd. So of course the main motivation for this document camera thing is surface mount boards. And I've got some of these Moss 8701 HBs to build today. And usually what I do with these parts is kind of roughly position them with the naked eye. These are 0603 size, which is About as small as really comfortable with crude equipment. As my hand goes in and out of the shot, the autofocus on the camera is trying to compensate. Sometimes I'll take a small screwdriver to release the part from the tweezers. You'll inevitably get a little flux on the tweezers, and these teeny tiny parts want to stick to it. Someone made a comment that, I could have got a stencil made for these and reflowed it, and that is entirely a possibility. I've done that with other boards. For boards this small, to really make it practical, you would want to have them panelized. And I originally thought I would probably sell way more kits than assembled board, but it's been the opposite. And hey, I am 2 capacitors short, which means I cannot count. There we go. Okay. Now we'll get the camera zoomed in on just one section of the board. Interesting if you could change the angle of the light source, but you can't. Oh, hey, that's like a pre-filter thing with doodad. I didn't realize that before. What does that do? Not really sure what it's doing. Okay. Our focus is pretty good, and this looks a little wonky, and I imagine if I had... Yeah, it's a little sharper if I put my glasses on. But it's more of a pain in the butt. And for tacking these little guys in place, I just use a fine pointed iron. And normally I like reaching around from the back, but this camera makes it a little more difficult. And it's been years since I've really done this under a camera. There we go. I find it's best just to not think about it too much. Let your brain compensate for what you're doing. And kind of bring the iron in diagonally. And you kind of make up for that lack of depth perception. There we go. That's pretty good. Okay, now with one side tacked, you really just need to tack the other side. You don't have to hold it. All right, not too shabby. So I'll go ahead and do the rest of these capacitors, the resistors, which are the same thing. And then when we get into that little inverter gate, we'll do some more recording, see how that goes. Okay, so now we need to put our little inverter gates on there. I've already taken the liberty of putting some flux on there. And having this t-shirt material on here to protect the surface of the document camera plate makes it a lot harder to get a hold of these components. I probably should have put a piece of cardboard down here to put the components on. So again, we just want those generally in the right area. I like going top row to bottom row, left to right. That seems to work better. Probably because I am right-handed. If you're a southpaw, it might work differently for you. go. Now we got some solder on there. Okay. Just takes a little getting used to doing it this way rather than under the magnifier, but this is just as easy. When I worked in a place that made boards doing this, we had the trinocular microscope. So we had the camera feed, and after doing it for a while, I found it actually easier to use the camera for most things. A lot harder time with things like binoculars and microscopes and gun sights and things like that, trying to look through them. It takes a lot of effort. My eyeballs don't seem to like doing it. So I will finish getting all these tacked into place. Then we'll move on to R3, which is right here. We'll move on to him. That's a 10K pull-up for this inverter gate, which is the same as the other resistors. And then we'll do the ICs, the big ICs. Okay, on to the actual clock chip itself. I did put a piece of paper down here to put the parts on, which is working much better. And I applied just a little bit of flux to all the pads where the chips go. And we'll pop the chips generally in place, and then we'll solder them on. I also put on my angled mini wave tip. See that under the document camera a little closer. Place. Drop all these guys right on. You can see the dot on the lower right corner of the chip. And there is a little dot right here. You can just barely see it under all that flux, but there's a dot right here. Now, I like working on these in this orientation. I just tinned this tip. It is, let's see if I can get it in focus here. No, it's really super blurry. Okay, well this tip is a little concave on the end. There you go. You can just about see it there. So it'll hold a little ball of solder. See, like that. Which makes doing this surface mount chips really easy, or easier at least. Okay, I gotta force myself to try not to look down. Might be better pliers for holding on to this big chip. Just get our pins lined up like, and it slipped on me. Oh, there we go. That's nice and even. I am happy with that. We'll just tack that corner rather crudely. Okay. We'll do the same with the other chips. Just tack them into place. That's all we need to do for now. Okay, we've got all our big ICs tacked on there. And I applied a little flux to the top of the leads because that helps it flow out better when you're drag soldering. And what I like to do is start in the opposite corner from where I tacked it. Apply a little solder there. And just drag gently down the chip. Just like that. Sometimes you'll get a little too much solder, so you can soak it back up in that little cup on the end of the iron. Got a pretty big blob there. There we go. No, there's still a blob there. There we go. Now we got it. Okay. Yep. It's kind of hard to tell. It's a little blurry with all the flux on there, but I suspect that's going to look real nice. The other thing I like doing after I get the big chip in place, since I've got this mini wave tip on there, is touching up the chip parts. Tend to get a little too much solder on there originally. So I'll just reflow it. Yeah, it makes for a more professional looking board when you're done. This one's kind of a tight fit right there. There we go. Okay. Now this looks nicer. Okay, I'll get the rest of these chips drag soldered like that, and then we'll give it an inspection before we dismount them and stick them in some alcohol to get all that flux off there. So we've given the boards a soak. Let's look at them under the document camera. Yeah, these look really nice. Now this isn't the final cleaning. You'll see a little flux in the corners. The purpose of this is just to let us see what the soldering looks like, and it looks great. You can read the values of the resistors. We can see all the pin alignment. All the solder joints look good. Yeah, this worked fine. So now the next part for these boards is soldering the legs on, which really isn't done into the document camera, so we'll take a look at something else next. Something else this type of camera might be useful for is doing close-up inspections of little tiny things which are, well, hard to see when you're an old fart. I had problems with this Super ROM for a TRS-80 Model 100 not wanting to work, and given that it was forcefully extracted, I kind of wondered if there was some damage to the traces. See if we can get zoomed in a little more here. And now I'm going to shut the autofocus off. Wrong direction. There we go. That's good. And I was ohming out the EEPROM pins to the castellation areas, and I had some weird conductivity between pins 12 and 13 here. You know, sometimes it was a few K, it was almost a dead short at one time. And now I don't really see that, although you do see a little reflection down there. I don't know if we can zoom in on that anymore. One annoying thing is when you zoom in, it turns on autofocus, so you got to turn it back off so it doesn't change on you. Yeah, look right here. See, there's a little schmaltz there. Maybe there was a path all the way over there. I don't know. I'm gonna give this a good clean up. Silly autofocus. And I also noticed that in some of these castellations, for example, right here, you can see what looks like some junk in there. Now I had removed the solder that was in these because it looked different than the original vintage ones I saw, but the fellow who still makes these said that that should be in there. So I think what I'll do is, yeah, so we can see that little shiny fleck between pins 12 and 13 again. There's definitely something under there. So we'll try to give this board a clean and clean up the castellations, and we'll see how it works in a Model 100, and then maybe we'll add a little solder to those castellations. But this is a much better view of this board than I could get through head-worn magnifier or the lighted magnifier. We'll see how zoomed in we can get. I think we're about to the point of, yeah, we're in the digital zoom range now, but that's not too bad. So with this magnification, the depth of field isn't great. Yeah, we can see that little shiny bit. So I've got this cleaned up now, and you notice between pins 12 and 13, we don't see our little shiny bit of stuff. But here's the danger from these castellations, is that as rough as this thing was probably pulled out originally when the socket was mangled, it can cause part of the copper to flake off like this. I kind of wonder if that's what had gotten up there between pins 12 and 13, just in the right spot. There we go. That could have been problematic. So, looking at these other pins under this high magnification, they look okay. It looks like we've got all the schmaltz out of there. Castellations are certainly cleaner. And if we look from this side, I think that is just a piece of fluff. Or a bit of a shadow or something. Yeah, that's nothing. Nope, this gets kind of shaky. And you could also have the issue of some of the flashing from the castellations contacting the pins because there's not much clearance right here. But these all look okay. So we'll try this guy in the computer now and see what happens. Well, I got the Super ROM installed, and I've actually put it in there and pulled it out and put it in there about 3 or 4 times by now. It snaps in correctly and it comes out easy, and best of all, it works. Let's get this cover put back on here. Now we'll go down and launch the Super ROM, and I'll tell it I want to use the word processing program. I've just been coming here and typing stuff every once in a while, and it's all working fine. I tried the spreadsheet, that works fine too. Oops, I have caps lock on. Caps lock and numlock tend to get pushed a lot when it's in the cover. Ah, 2 T's. This keyboard needs typed on more. Sometimes when these have sat a long time, the keys will kind of skip or not work real well, and the more you type on it, the better it works. It's actually a nice little keyboard. Alright, press F8 to save it, and F8 to exit the Super. Works great. So that document camera came in handy. It let us see where the problem was and get it cleaned up. Now our Super ROM is super again. So how does our document camera work with other types of circuit boards? Well, to find out, I got it on an Ethernet smooth stepper, which is an Ethernet connected motion controller for CNC machines. Built a lot of controllers with this over the years. So we'll kind of start out with a good general overview, which is good enough to find a particular area you want to zoom in on. And start zooming in here. And here we can see our Spartan FPGA. This is a 32-bit TI microcontroller. And we start seeing the teeny tiny parts. Okay. We are right in the range of it doing digital zoom now. It's past the optical capability. And these LEDs are a size smaller than the resistors we were putting on the boards we were building. So these are like 0402, let's say 1 by 2 millimeter. And these little capacitors are 0201, which, you know, in English measurements is teeny by tiny. But, you know, we can see those quite nicely. When my buddy designed this board, he made it set in the same footprint as the previous USB connected version. So he had to go to a 5-layer board. And he is just a whiz at laying this stuff out. He's one of those people who'll take forever to lay something out, and then it just works. Very nice. We can get a very good view of all. I'm going to shut off that autofocus. We can get a good view of all the pins. Let's see if we can zoom in more on those. Yep. And this is digitally zoomed here a little bit, but we get a good picture of all those finely pitched pins. We can read the values off those teeny tiny resistors. Look how big my little pliers look there. Very nice. Yeah, this is very workable. You know, the disadvantage with any view on a monitor is you don't have the depth perception you would with a binocular microscope. But it does work. You can get used to it. I haven't used camera for surface mount soldering in 20 years, and it didn't take long to get used to it again. You just kind of let your brain fill in all the gaps and don't think about it too much. And, you develop that hand-eye coordination. So I'm very happy with this. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video, taking a look at using a document camera for an unintended purpose. And thanks to the fellow on Twitter who recommended this. I don't remember your name off the top of my head, but I sure do appreciate it. This has been a very good use of 50 bucks. It's very useful for that amount of money. What are your thoughts or your comments? What's your favorite way to work on surface mount circuit boards? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear from you. I'd like to take a moment and say thanks to everyone who helps support the Hey Bert channel through Patreon and other means. Your help is what keeps this channel going. If you'd like to find out some more information about becoming a supporting member, well, just look in the description down below and you'll see some links there. While you're down there, you'll see a rectangular subscribe button that says subscribe in it. Well, if you click on that, it does what you think. It subscribes you to the channel. And then, if you click on that bell-shaped icon, YouTube will be nice enough to let you know just as soon as I post a new video. Well, until next time, bye.